Hello and welcome to our final video lecture of the semester. I just want to offer a few reminders about the final essay. So for essay 4, just as you did in essay 3 when you made a point about your abstract term, right? You answered the question, what do we learn about identity by analyzing, and then you penciled in your fictional source or sources. You want to do the same thing for essay 4, but now your issue is not the abstract term you chose from the list for essay 3. Your issue is the type of literary criticism you want to focus on in your analysis. Do you want to focus on gender? Okay, what do we learn about gender by analyzing literature? What do we learn about masculinity, femininity, right? Gender roles, expectations, stereotypes. Now, if you want to go beyond just traditional masculinity and femininity and you want to bring in LGBTQIA issues, stereotypes, gender roles, by all means, now you're doing a queer criticism. So hopefully everybody's feeling confident on the first two. If I may suggest, I think Lady Macbeth is ripe for a queer criticism. If she does unsex herself and Macbeth says that he does it all for love, right? Are we not witnessing a transgender relationship? And on a side note, real quick, when you think about um, Hamlet and Macbeth, their defense, right? Hamlet's defense is, I was crazy. I didn't mean to do it. Okay, so it's, what do we call that nowadays? The insanity defense. Macbeth, oh, I did it all for love, right? He does it for love, is essentially is what he says. In one of his reasons. What would that be? A crime of passion, right? Hamlet's whole idea, right? What does he do if the ghost is guilty? What is true justice, right? Capital punishment. So I think that these plays could easily be viewed from a historical context too, when we look at the insanity defense nowadays, crime of passion defense nowadays, capital punishment nowadays, right? Historical criticism. What do we learn about history by analyzing literature? And you can compare and contrast with the present. But you could also look at them from a psychological standpoint, right? Crime of passion is based on emotions, um, right? Insanity defense, right? Again, is Hamlet schizophrenic? Is he in denial? Is he dealing with anxiety or depression? Is Macbeth paranoid? Is he a sociopath? Are they suffering from insomnia, which could be a result of anxiety? And if you want to write on Othello, you've got a lot of those psychological issues at play as well. So I think that hopefully everybody after this lecture is feeling even more confident about doing a gender criticism, doing a queer criticism, doing a historical criticism, or doing a psychological criticism. Now, when you bring in the critics, right, you're essentially doing reader response criticism, right? So you've been doing a reader response criticism this whole time when you bring in the critics. That criticism says it's not necessarily what gives the literature value is what the author wants to convey. It's what the reader, right, infers. Remember, we've been talking about inferences all semester. What does the reader infer from the literature? That's what gives it value, not what the author is trying to convey to the reader. It's the reader that gives the literature value. So again, we value the reader's responses just as much as we value the literature. So when you bring the critics in, you're doing reader response. So you've already been doing reader response criticism. When you look at the formal elements of fiction, which you should have been doing for essays 1, 2, and 3, that's formalism. So you've already been doing formalism. You've already been doing reader response criticism. If you wrote about Mrs. Mallard as a woman, you were doing a gender criticism, right? The only other one that we have yet to touch on, or the only two, are cultural criticism, which is essentially focusing on culture, right? What do we learn about culture? Well, if you wrote about identity or courage for essay 3, I mean, pretty much everything is a cultural criticism. And lastly, Marxist criticism. You don't say we learn about Marxism. What you would say is that we learn about power, um, money, class, and how those things influence people's thoughts and actions. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward, that at no point in your essay do you need to say, I'm doing a gender criticism, I'm doing a psychological criticism. No, no, no. You do a gender criticism when you analyze gender. You do a psychological criticism when you write about psychology. You do a reader response criticism when you look at the reader's responses. And it looks like my computer screen light in the background just went out. Perfect timing, right? Kind of creepy and weird as this video is winding up. So hopefully you're feeling more confident about essay number 4. Let me know if you have any questions. Please call me, as I'm here to help. And again, it's kind of an extent. It's very similar to essay 3, only now your issue is not the term or the cultural concept from the list. Your issue is now, what do we learn about gender? What do we learn about culture? What do we learn about history? What do we learn about psychology? What do we learn about the reader's responses? And as we've been doing all semester, what do we learn about the formal elements, or how do we use the formal elements of fiction to analyze and learn about literature? So if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you for your patience with my lighting situation. I don't want to get up and hit the monitor. I'm a knucklehead. All right, bye now. Make sure you let me know if you have any questions.